because we're going to get into another topic within this Love Jones analysis about how couples are actually exhausting the possibilities. Possibilities of what? What are we discussing? What do you think about that, Alan J?
Well, when it comes to, I would say couples exhausting the possibilities, it's really that maybe that person has given up on what it could be instead of just focusing on what's actually the issues right now. Because I always like to get to the root cause before, you actually try to attack the symptoms and stuff. So
Yeah, nice.
okay, so we do have a video that basically it's just a little scene that they're talking, and then they're going to basically talk about like, hey, what are the what is all of this about of exhausting the possibilities and everything. So we're about to get right to it.
When you first ask a woman to marry you, and when she says I do. When people who've been together for a long time say that the romance is gone, what they're really saying is they've exhausted the possibility. Vaughn.
Now you talking about my thing.
You don't hear me, bro.
One thing I really love about Darius is that he doesn't need to be loud.
Yeah.
When he speaks, everyone listens.
Without a doubt.
Because they trust his insight. They do. They trust his insight on things. They trust his philosophy. He don't need to be loud and obnoxious like his frenemy would.
Yeah, that's definitely a frenemy.
Yeah, exactly. So I really like that about him. And what he said is actually something I really agree with. I do think couples are exhausting the possibilities. And this is something I think Love Jones really got right about romance. These days we see, marriages aren't lasting, divorces are rising. And why is that? I think a lot of times it's because people are saying they're no longer happy. Well, to me, that makes it sound like the newness is probably gone and you don't know how to make it newer anymore. So you just stop putting in the effort to do that.
Yeah.
And that's really sad for me. That's really sad. What do you think?
It's that this is so much when it comes to just the whole context of exhausting possibilities. And I think that it truly shows you that you're not thinking about the relationship anymore. I think that we tend to think about ourselves and how we feel, and instead of how I can be a part of the solution in this equation. And so I think I like to give things that maybe people can do a lot of times when they exhaust those possibilities of like the newness.
Yeah.
So something that I always do in my relationship, whether I take it from movies or just something that I think about.
He means me, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, go ahead.
It's the Capricorn, I guess. But yeah, it's whether it's going to a vinyl store or going to a local farmer's market and just taking everything in, like stuff like that creates newness, is because you're going to get a different experience each and every time that you go and spend time with that person, and constantly look for those things to bring that newfound feeling and things of that nature. Like I think some of the most intimate things is not actually sex. Something that I like to do is like read to my woman. So whether it's like me reading a word or me just reading like a book that I'm interested in, and vice versa. I know that's a thing that I think that anybody who's watching this should definitely do. I'm definitely very old school, and so that I like making sure that we create that nostalgia when it comes to keeping things fresh. Like we can ride bikes to the local ice cream place and just be young. I think that sometimes we get stuck in the monotony of life and us just going in like a constant, pattern, and we're used to a lot of things, and we start to look at a person and not like, she's not what she used to be, or he doesn't look like how he used to look, or he used to grab me like this, but he doesn't anymore. And I think it's really good for us to keep that open communication. I know a lot of people say communication rules the nation, but what you have to actually do is actively listen. And actively listen doesn't just mean, okay, I'm hearing you. What active listening really means is it's going to drive a true change and an action towards our goal. Like, hey, I want to love you better for you, because my version of love may be totally different based on how I grew up. And so, or how you grow up as a person. And so with all of that, you really, really, really just have to work at it at the end of the day,
Absolutely. I love everything you just said.
Okay, we have a comment from Mama Shirley. Nina was struggling, and it has a photograph of Darius struggling. Writer had like a lot in common.
Nina was struggling as a photographer, and Darius was struggling as a writer. They have a lot in common.
Okay, got you.
They definitely do have a lot in common. And that could have really added to the idea of, them not being able to really make it work. Maybe their brains were
fogged up, clogged up
with other things. Because think about how stressed when they actually finally got together, how Darius was stressed about writing his novel, and Nina worried about that phone number she saw on the fridge. That probably would have been me, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and that was probably would have been me. Like, Miracle, get out my face. Bye.
Okay, you were actually in my face just then in the camera. But yeah, it goes along with, and it can, with that situation, it can go a lot towards exhausting the possibilities, even though they weren't together for a long time. But it can exhaust the possibilities because maybe they're just used to each other at that point, and they don't know what else to do to really speak to each other in a new way. Because even though the relationship was new, there were a lot of things that they were doing that were the same, like the way they spoke to each other, the way they interacted with each other, things like that. It got stale, which is why it was probably easier to dismiss each other, or easier for Nina to disrespect Darius, or easier for Darius to dismiss and ignore Nina, because they're just used to each other's presence by now. And so that can have a lot to do with it too. You don't have to be together for 40 years and stuff like that, but I like all the suggestions you gave about, the things that couples can do to create more possibilities for each other, because that's really important. And I was with a group of women last night, and most of them were married. We were at a Christmas party, and we had a lot of good and deep discussions about marriage and sex and romance and things of that nature. And the topic of, exhausting the possibilities did come up. And a lot of things that I've learned from a lot of married women who I've spoken to in general, they say, it's really good to plan in advance for things, plan your date nights and plan, time spent together, because when you get married and life starts happening and kids start coming into the picture, you can really forget to make that time for each other. And then all of a sudden a year passes, 2 years pass, 3. Now you're a decade into it and you're like, man, when was the last time we've been out on an actual date? When was the last time we left the kids with the grandparents? When was the last time it was just me and you?
Yeah. I feel like you speaking directly to me, it's...
You married?
No, not yet. But yeah, I think that we do get caught up in life. I think just whether it's a woman or a man,
Absolutely.
I think we all get really, really caught up to where, like, man, like, I forgot to show you how much you mean to me. I forgot to show you that, that ring that I put on your finger is a representation of my love for you and that commitment that I'm going to have for you and God,
No, that's really true. That's really true. I think it's very important to always remember that, when it comes down to it, to put in that effort for each other and make each other a priority. First and foremost, God, and then each other, because that's the whole point of it, becoming one flesh, one unified front, you know? So I really do like that, because the way you become a unified front is to know each other. And a part of knowing each other is by accepting each other's differences, which is what we're going to get into when we talk about how men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
2 different planets.
Right when we get back.
Fight for the algorithm.